Hello, welcome to A Few Minutes with Habakkuk. I'm Buddy Pennington, pastor of Westville Assembly of God in Holmes County, Florida. This is lesson number 3 and part 3. We'll be concluding our study of Habakkuk with this lesson tonight. The scriptures for this lesson are taken from Habakkuk chapter 3, verses 16 through 19. Allow me to read those for you now from the New Living Translation. I trembled inside when I heard this. My lips quivered with fear. My legs gave way beneath me, and I shook in terror. I will wait quietly for the coming day when disaster will strike the people who invade us. Even though the fig trees have no blossoms, and there are no grapes on the vines, even though the olive crop fails and the fields lie empty and barren, even though the flocks die in the fields and the cattle barns are empty, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in the God of my salvation. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes me as sure-footed as a deer, able to tread upon the heights. And for a footnote, for the choir director, this prayer is to be accompanied by string instruments. Now Habakkuk is struck with fear and awe as he describes God's great power. It sounds like his knees are literally shaking out from underneath him, doesn't it? It's at this point that Habakkuk decides to simply wait on the Lord to deal with those nations who are invading and oppressing Israel. He realizes that God is still God even when the olives and grape crops fail, even when there are no grain crops in the fields, even if the herds die in the pastures and the barns are empty of cattle. Even in spite of all of those terrible things that were happening in his nation, he makes up his mind, God is still God. Habakkuk ends his song with a declaration of faith in God. He decides to rejoice in God because the Almighty One is his salvation and his refuge. God helps Habakkuk be strong, and he gives him a sound foundation on which to tread, just like he gives a deer the ability to tread skillfully in the heights and the mountains. Now, just like Habakkuk, we're going to face trials, afflictions, persecutions possibly, dangers, hard times in our own lives, in our modern days too. But we can put our trust in Jesus as Messiah. He is our Redeemer. He is our returning King, who one day will be crowned King of Kings and Lord of Lords. You see, we can trust in God. Jesus' promises will be fulfilled to his followers. His presence, his protection, his provision are promised to his disciples. We can rely on his promises to us. You see, they are just as real for us today as they were for Habakkuk in his day. Rejoice with Habakkuk as our Savior and Lord takes care of us, just like he took care of Israel. Keep in mind, hard times may come, but like Habakkuk, we can still rejoice in knowing that God is still in control. It's our prayer that these studies have been a blessing to you. I encourage you to share a link to this study with folks that you know who could be blessed just as you have been. Allow me to encourage you to take a look at our Facebook page, which is Westville AG at 2513 Cypress Street. May God richly bless you until we have our next Bible study. Next week, we are going to begin a study of the short New Testament book of Philemon. That's only one chapter, but there's a lot of good stuff in Philemon. Looking forward to seeing you hopefully the next time we get together. And the title for that study will be A Few Minutes with Philemon. God bless you until then.